And if we don't want to do that, we can actually just fire heavily shielded barrels of CO2 or any other nasty stuff we want to straight into our own solar trash burner, the sun, using the same technology that makes railguns possible. Woo! So we're the problem, but we're often the solution. And as fantastic as that all is, there's basically reasonable engineering solutions. As long as we all agree there's an issue, then the sky's the limit. But beyond the sky, 2012 brought us the privatization of space travel.
Yeah!
I don't know if there are any space fans in here, but that's where we're going next.
SpaceX represent.
That's exactly where we're going next. With current government-run space travel, it costs about $9,000 to $12,000 a pound to get something out of Earth's gravity into the space station. Pick up an iPad sometime, and you'll realize that a pound can be a lot of equipment. Not to mention it makes having a pint of beer on the treadmill named after Stephen Colbert cost about as much as a smart car, though worth every penny. So, for every pound of efficiency gained, you have additional space for safety features, for comforts, for scientific instruments. Making big breakthroughs is something that can be done very well in individual organizations. But what they're not good at is improving on their own designs. The simple way to look at this is basically this. If they could have done X, Y, Z better, they probably would have. So NASA scientists are there to make leaps, but somebody else has to provide the balance. That's where private space comes in. When lots of small companies look at not just how to do something, but how to do it in a way where they can support a staff and investors, they don't look to break new ground. What they look for is to break old ground easier. SpaceX, Planetary Resources, and Virgin Galactic look at every part of those NASA victories, and then they try to find out how to do them slightly better. They're not trying to leap big science. What they're trying to do is make what they do repeatable at a cheaper rate. And this, basically, the Dragon capsule in 2012, if that's any kind of yardstick, private companies are going to do real well in space. The technology, and again, this is good for all of us. The technology thrown off by space travel and exploration is incredibly valuable and cool. I mean, video games, good mattresses, your basic porn delivery services, a lot of that technology was made for space. Those will always be a few steps ahead. And beyond that, our own solar system, we landed a large mechanical rover on the surface of Mars. As DARPA, iRobot, and too many Japanese companies to name made huge strides in robotics. I mean, ridiculous stuff. So much I can't even really go into it. I can just basically tell you what it means. We must send men to space, but even when we can launch them cheaply and safely, robots are still going to be our future. Space is an awful environment for human beings. It's too cold or too hot in places, vacuum is nasty, and there's very little in the way of gas, food, or lodging.
Like my bedroom.
Exactly. A lot of these things end up being like your bedroom. Space isn't all that bad for robots, however. In space, a solar panel gets 144% of what it gets on Earth. So once you get a robot out of the atmosphere, it can pretty much go until its wheels fall off. Robots eat for free. And robots, unlike humans, have multiple redundant systems. If a micrometeoroid goes through Bob at 22,000 miles per hour, it's going to ruin Bob's spacesuit, his insides, and by virtue of those two things, probably his dick. A micrometeoroid that goes through a robot traveling 22,000 miles per hour is going to ruin the system it hit, and not much else. And in the future, these robots may even be able to cannibalize and repair broken systems. Humans also have the problem of relatively short lifespan. If the universal speed limit is really 186,000 miles per second, or the speed of light, we got a real problem in terms of space exploration. We're hitting about 3% of that. So our closest neighbor is 4 light years away. That means no return journeys for any interstellar settlers, even if we improve our speeds tenfold. And precious little room for anything but supplies in their ships. It's not ideal for colonization. Exactly. You get there.
That's who's going on a dick code.
Exactly. How do we get home from here? We don't. Hopefully something to be eaten around here. So basically, for us to colonize those extra solar places, we'll have to send a team in advance that can build a settlement. We'll have to land rovers and builders on the surface of wherever we're going, not unlike how we landed the Curiosity. We'll have to unpack and assemble our habitats, gather water and minerals, and grow the biomass that will eventually grow crops. When we do arrive to the stars, Wall-E, Hal, and the Terminator will be waiting for us with a cake made from hydroponically grown wheat. We'll be damn glad to see them. Now, if you think this is all science fiction, DARPA and NASA have already begun work on the 100-year Starship project.
Yeah.
You know what? There you go.
Yeah.
Which hopes to begin working out the theoretical kinks in exactly that sort of endeavor. The advances in the field of robotics, again, too numerous to mention. There's a lot of it. The advance that most people don't know about, though, which is the final one I'm going to be dealing with, is citizen science. Now, 2012 was a great year for a Revolutionary War hero we kind of lost a few generations ago, the citizen scientist. The citizen scientist is a slightly different animal than the sort of person who goes into private space travel or professional science. We dabble in it because it's exciting, it's fun, and not because of desire for profit or really anything else. It's like a hobby, but you're kind of serious about it. They enjoy playing a role in the march of science. Instead of leading it, they bounce around from discipline to discipline as they please. More Ben Franklin than Nikola Tesla, citizen scientists are the volunteers of science, tossing out ideas, data, and assistance to the pros just for the fun of it. We write about science, collect data, add processor speed to distributed computing endeavors like SETI at home, and generally act like geeks at a con, having fun through shared discoveries and interests, and presumably trying to get laid like geeks at a con. And we had a lot of fun in 2012. And some of that kind of fun, I'm sure, too. James Cameron reached the deepest point of the ocean this year in his own vehicle, the Deep Sea Challenger, which is much nicer than what I would have named it if I was him, James Cameron's enormous cock. I mean, it's going deep. Why'd he do it? Not a clue, but the last time science could afford to go down there, Eisenhower was president and gas cost 31 cents a gallon. An energy drink company simultaneously created a really epic new spacesuit design, broke the sound barrier, and would have gotten Felix Baumgartner laid about a zillion times if he wasn't already engaged to a model. Now don't get me wrong, the US just recently came out with their own dandy spacesuit with lots of plagiarism from Buzz Lightyear and the Russians, but astronauts in 100 years will probably prefer the suits of a more Red Bully style, which is a little sad when you think about it, but it's interesting. BBC's Stargazing Live, The Planet Hunters, and other such crowdsourced search for exoplanets have over 100,000 amateurs scouring the skies, looking for planets, stars, asteroids, all of that. And they're finding cool shit, too. One of them found an exoplanet with 4 suns around it, which beats Tatooine by 2. And for my part, I use the internet to diagnose my own appendicitis. Using basic web programs, blogs written by medical interns, and Wikipedia, I was able to diagnose myself early enough and accurately enough that I was in the hospital within 10 hours of the first symptoms with a very specific condition to look for. They actually got in there so early they were actually able to take the appendix out completely intact, ending up with a suitable specimen for dissection. Yes, I donated my tissue to science. It's the least I could do after they saved my life. So almost dying from internal bacteria became one of the most interesting parts of my year. Now you put that all together and what you realize is the future is now. When people start talking about what's going to happen in the future, consider this single year in science. Realize that for all practical purposes, when you mean the future, you're talking about right now and all around us. You're soaking in. That futuristic Star Trek, Flash Gordon world you've been pining for, it's fucking here. This is the first generation of it, that's true, but it's developing so quickly that you'll have most of it as little as 10 years, and almost all of it before you pass away. You're going to inherit a world far more interesting than the one you came into. If you have kids, yikes. What they're going to see, I can't even imagine. But you got to embrace it in the now. Stop asking for your fucking hoverboard. Stop looking for the flying car. Stop missing the general benchmarks because your vision of the future requires a specific technological milestone. It shouldn't. You're standing right smack dab in the middle of the future, and it's fucking amazing. 2012 alone has brought street-legal autonomous vehicles, incredible new batteries, blisteringly fast tablets, smaller transistors, faster fiber optics, solar panels at half the cost with increased conversion, binary mobility suits and robotic arms controlled by the human brain, 3D printing vending machines, and robots that can search rubble for fucking earthquake victims. And what science accomplishes in 2013 is also up to you. All science requires to advance is money and interest. There's plenty of the first as long as you provide the second. So support science, be interested, and share your curiosity with others. Arthur C. Clarke said that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. So put on your Gandalf hat, motherfucker. We got science to do.
So Will, what you're saying, because I'm a man of science, okay? So what you're saying is I should completely forget the flux capacitor and say hello to the possibility of Orion slave women.
Well, yeah, absolutely. They're coming, and you don't want to pronounce it gigawatt either. That'll get you banned in a lot of places.
What?
Well, I know a lot about science. He gets it off the internet, but I get it from a more reliable source. Cable TV. And this year, I learned that mermaids are real. And those are cool because if their top comes off, they're totally naked. And Bigfoots, they exist. They're real too. And I also learned that if you buy a storage unit, there's usually something really expensive in it too.